Good morning. Happy Friday to everybody. One at a time, please.
What's the latest in your conversations with Speaker McCall and Mr. Treat?
So latest conversations, so the question was latest conversation with Pro Tem Treat and Speaker McCall. We're going to be getting together on Monday, so really excited about that. Just trying to break the logjam. Again, the big picture here is we all want to give teachers pay raises. We all want to invest heavily in education this year. We're going to have the largest investment ever in our state history in education. And at the same time, we want to empower parents. So there's some fine tuning. There's a little details on how that gets done. The House has been very clear that they want something for rural Oklahoma. They believe that the tax credit will predominantly be used in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and they're not wrong on that. And then the Senate has some great points on how they want to address teacher pay, and the tax credit was passed and thrown back over to the House, and the House has taken that up and passed it. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. We got to start talking. And hopefully I can continue to bring them together, and we'll get something very, very good across the finish line for Oklahomans.
How would you characterize your relationship with the tribes right now?
I think it's very good. I think my relationships with all groups around the state are really, really, really good. I feel good about it. Whether it's the oil and gas industry, it's the renewable industries, it's the hydrogen folks. All the different groups around the state, I feel like I have a great relationship with.
You vetoed a couple pieces of tribal legislation this week. Tribal regalia, there was one about dealt with sex offender registries. I think there was a council commission.
Yep.
People were a little upset about that.
Was there somebody upset about it?
Just a few people, right?
Was there? Well, first off, what Oklahomans need to understand is, it's problematic when you can reach into this building and get a bill passed that may not be the best for all 4 million Oklahomans. So I want to be very, very clear that my veto on the tribal regalia, very clear, my veto did not stop any student from wearing tribal regalia, all right? It just leaves that up to the local district. That's all it said. And we're not going to allow and force districts to not be in control of their own, cap and gown or whatever they're going to require their students to wear. But certainly they can do that, and I'm not even sure if they ask. Most superintendents probably allow people to wear tribal regalia. We're just not going to make a one-size-fit-all, and we're not going to force every school district to do it. Your other question was the sex offenders, and again, misunderstood. There's probably people trying to spin the media in a circle or trying to confuse Oklahomans. There is absolutely no gap in our registry system. All sex offenders must register with the state of Oklahoma. We have those registers that are online. Absolutely, that's going to be. We're not, but what that bill said was we were going to require non-natives to start registering in some kind of tribal jurisdiction. That's what we said we weren't going to do. But there is no gaps in our registry system today.
There's another bill that has to do with keeping registered sex offenders and human traffickers out of long-term care facilities in Senate Bill 369. One of the original and group of vetoes that you had from Senate bills, you kind of lumped it in with trying to basically get the tax credits passed and more movement on education. That was part of your veto message. But why would that type of a bill get wrapped up in something like that if it's about long-term care facilities, keeping sex offenders and human traffickers out of there?
Well, I'd have to look at that specific bill. We can bring some of those back up if we can land the plane here on this session. Again, I've been really, really clear that we have to get tax cuts done and we have to get school choice done. So let's get those things across the finish line. We can revisit a lot of those things. And again, there is no gaps right now in our sex offender registration, and I think that's really important for us to all understand.
It seems there is some school choice progress. Where do the top stand for the tax cuts?
I think there's some progress there as well. We've had some conversations. The House has passed several different tax cuts over to the Senate. The Senate has been very thoughtful on how they want to do it. But we've got some signals from them that they're ready to move on maybe a 1/4 point tax cut, and so that'd be a move in the right direction for sure.
So if both those things get through, would you encourage lawmakers to override some of those 20 blanket vetoes that dealt with the tax reform?
Yeah, we could absolutely sit down and talk about those for sure. Let's get the two things that Oklahomans that I've talked about. I just came off the campaign trail. The two things that I know Oklahomans want more than anything, and then we can do some of these other bills.
You said a 1/4 of a percentage point on the tax cut. Would that be a personal income tax cut or corporate? Or
Personal, yes, personal. And then there's some franchise tax. There's some things that the tax commission has let us know that if we get these things done, we'll be top 10 in the country in what we think is a pro-business tax policy. And so those are also some things, some flattening out, just having a true flat tax, which would help people on the lower income brackets not start paying if we actually raise the brackets and had everybody at the same level. So it's kind of a flat tax, but it also helps people on the lower income brackets. So those are also, there was a House bill that addressed that maybe we can re-look at as well.
The Senate has talked a lot about not wanting to maybe spend all the way up to our authority with the 1.1 billion, whether it's spending, whether it's a combination of spending and a tax cut, for fear of, even though we've got some savings that are pretty good, not wanting to get back in a situation where we were 5 years ago. I saw yesterday the June futures price of natural gas. And you may know more about trading futures than I do, but it's fallen off a cliff in the last 4 or 5 days. And I'm curious whether your administration is watching that or has any concerns about sort of what we assume to be a potential slowdown of the economy over the next 6 to 18 months.
You know, there's always some people that are predicting, hey, our economy is going to slow down, and that's why the savings is very, very important. But historically speaking, if we had a $3.8 billion savings account, we'll weather any kind of 2-3 year economic downturn or recession type period. So that's historically, that's why it was very important for my first 4 years was to create this savings account. We literally have $6.2 billion in savings right now. So we're in a really, really good situation. And that's why we absolutely can afford to do a 1/4 point or to do a 1/2 point tax cut or to get rid of the grocery tax. If we don't do it now with this surplus and our savings account, when do you do it? When do you give that back? And I'm just trying to make sure that Oklahoma is competitive with all other states. Iowa, Arizona, there's several states that are on a path right now that as revenue is going up, they're just slowly ratcheting down the personal income tax. And I don't want to get left behind as Oklahomans, but not worried about that. To your point, I will never cut our expenses. I'll never cut revenue and raise expenses above where our reoccurring revenue and reoccurring expenses are. I will always keep reoccurring expenses below reoccurring revenue.
You signed the transgender, gender affirmative gender assignment care bill into law. The ACLU announced a lawsuit. In Tennessee, the DOJ, I know, has taken action against them. Are you preparing for legal action from DOJ over this bill, or what's your thoughts there?
You know, I mean, here's the deal. You're always going to have those type of groups file lawsuits, but the legislature can pass laws. We represent the people of Oklahoma, and once the governor signs those into laws, we believe that we have the ability to, regulate and put laws in place in the state of Oklahoma that represent our people. And I think Oklahomans overwhelmingly agree with me that minors should not be permanently harmed or mutilated or have gender transition surgeries done. I think Oklahomans agree with me on that. And again, these are minors. Minors can't get tattoos, buy alcohol, they can't buy tobacco. We need to protect our minors. And this is nothing against an adult. If you want to get an elective surgery of some kind, that's something that you're gonna do as an adult. But we do have an obligation to protect our children, so I have confidence that the courts agree with us that our legislature has the ability to pass that law.
The House has voted on your
Yeah, you know, when I was up here, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever I rolled out the governor's education plan, and I asked the House and the Senate, let's take that up, let's get this across the finish line. And so I applaud the House. They signed that out of conference with, I think, 75 different House members signed off on that. So basically signaling that they can pass that on their floor. The Senate hasn't done that. I'd love for them to take that up. Again, but I'm also trying to break the log jam again. So on Monday, we're going to sit down again with the leadership and try to get something across the finish line. And I think we can get there. I think there's ability. The House is willing to talk. I think the Senate's willing to still be at the table to discuss how that looks. The Senate, I was very proud of them. I went and talked to their caucus, and they passed uncoupled a tax credit, school choice plan and their education plan. But the problem is that they didn't move far enough for the House's for what the House wants. So now we're still back at the table, kind of discussing those things.
Last question.
Senate Bill 621 was sent to Conference Committee. What would you like to see happen with that bill? Do you support the existing plan, or are there any changes that you would like to
Which
see?
one is the Senate Bill 621?
To create the Oklahoma Workforce Commission.
Yeah. So we all through the off season we worked really closely with the state chamber, and we believe that we need one agency or one department and all the different higher ed and the workforce agencies reporting up to one person that can bring education community and our business community together to start training that workforce. So hopefully that gets across the finish line. I'm working with my cabinet. We put another cabinet position available to put a workforce person there. So workforce is probably the number one thing that businesses are always talking about. We need to rethink outside the box on how we train the next generation of workforce and get people that feel like the workforce has moved them by or passed them by. We want to get them re-engaged in the workforce as well. So that's so important. It's a huge initiative of mine, and so hopefully that gets across the finish line to my desk. Thanks, everybody.